you don't have to be an AT&T or a Comcast to start some of these local broadband initiatives to really bring up your speed.
Welcome to another episode of the Community Broadband Bits podcast. I'm Christopher Mitchell at the Institute for Local Self-Reliance in St. Paul, Minnesota. Today, I'm talking to Scott Vanderlip, the co-founder of Los Altos Hills Community Fiber and president of the LA HCF board. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm really excited to talk to you because I love these stories where someone gets in their head that they should do something and they actually do it. It's really inspiring. But for people who aren't familiar, just tell us a little bit about Los Altos Hills to start.
We're right here in Silicon Valley. We border up to Palo Alto, Mountain View. I can see from my house, I can see Google headquarters. You would think, being in Silicon Valley, we would have good broadband here, but there's a lot of people in my community that are literally, they are not just underserved, they're unserved. We have people a little bit higher up the hill that there's no AT&T, there's no Comcast, they're on satellite or point-to-point microwave. They're paying like up to I know people that pay $900 a month to get 100 megabit service to a point-to-point kind of a thing. And, and then this town, we're kind of a unique Silicon Valley town where we're zoned RA1. And so that's residential agriculture. So we actually have people that on your property, you can actually have cows and horses. So we're spread out quite a bit. We have 1 acre lots. And so that maybe has prevented a lot of the telcos from coming in and upgrading us because we are rather spread out. But still, we have a lot of high tech executives that live here and they scramble. I talk to people every day on the phone. They plan their day around, okay, at 9 o'clock, you get 1 hour Zoom and then you grab the car, get in the kids and kick the kids in the car, go down and hang out in front of McDonald's and get some Wi-Fi there and do Zooming, virtual, assuming when they had to go online school. They plan their days around their lack of internet. I decided, we need fiber. It's right there. It's so close. It's that last mile. We need to bring it right to our homes. There's no reason that we shouldn't be having gigabit or even faster service right here. So we started this project.
And when you say your neighbors and whatnot, this isn't like a town of like 400 people. This is a significant size, even though you're pretty well spread out.
Yeah, so we're about 9,000 people and about 3,000 homes spread out here right along the peninsula, just heading up the hill from the bay.
I feel like, when I talk to people in the Midwest, sometimes they'll give me a count of the cows or the sheep or something like that also. But we don't need to go into that level of detail. How many homes are connected by your solution? We're going to talk more about the origin story and everything, but I just wanted to paint a little picture for people about what you've done. So what have you done and how far have you gotten?
So we started off with a smaller pilot of about 6 homes, and we sort of confirmed that all the pieces came together. We have a dark fiber lease circuit that we use where we connect directly to a data center in Santa Clara. We go about 40 kilometers. We come here and then we provision it locally with our own built, member-owned and operated fiber optic network, and so we confirm that that dark fiber lease and connection works with Hurricane Electric, works, and all of the pieces come together, and we can simply install this plastic in the ground and pull the fibers and run it to the homes, and it works. So we scaled up. So now we have about, I think, 35 homes connected, but in the next, probably in the next 6 months, we probably have well over even maybe 100 more homes that are kind of in the pipeline. We've been waiting to get some town permitting and agreements and stuff. It takes a lot of, you basically have to get the town's permission to really deploy this. We've been deploying it, so far more on private roads, private properties, but at some point you have to cross a public road, and that was stopping us for a while. But we have now passed that. We got that approval at the end of August.
Oh, so that's it's fortuitous timing for our interview. Most people are familiar with my show with the town themselves doing it, but in this case, you've done it with a group of people who are like-minded and willing to put a little work into the project. And the town, it seems like at least some people in the town aren't super supportive of it, but we can talk more about that later. That seems like an accurate overview. Is that right?
Yeah, we've had some pushback, not really from residents so much, but yeah, there's been some challenges. But I think we've got people more on board now. And so the town has sort of officially designated us as an official provider. And a lot of that's just because we are not a municipal project. We are a residents owned and operated mutual benefit corporation. So we're not using any town money for this project. We only build where people want us to build. And so it is quite a bit of a different project. And then so the town doesn't really know what to do. We're not a cable company. We're not a telco. They didn't know how to go, well, we can provide, if you're a cable company, we can grant you access to the roads, but you're not a cable company. You're not a telco. So they didn't want to grant us access to the roads. And we're like, well, we can't move forward unless we are actually digging and putting our pipes in the ground. So they finally have admitted that we are legit now.
Yes, this is something that I've discussed previously with Travis Carter, both on this show and on the Connect This show that he and I do together. He runs a fiber network in Minneapolis and talks about his experiences in the early years permitting. And yeah, when you go to the city and they're not used to this, they have to figure out which bucket to put you in. And if it's not clear, no one in the bureaucracy wants to make a decision as to where you should go.
Nobody wants to take that risk. Nobody really wants to admit, and so this community broadband organization, I'm trying to find, you don't qualify. And so it took us a long time and we even worked with the PUC, that's the California Public Utilities Commission, and they couldn't really find a thing that would really fit their requirements. And so, in fact, these local states need to actually come up with new, easy certifications that smaller, similar broadband cooperatives can go and apply for a license, and then you're official, and then it grants. You let the cities go and say, okay, yeah, this is another type of entity, and now you can build in the right of way.
Yeah, I mean, just for people's context, this has, again, come up once or twice in conversations I've had recently, is that in many cities, there's no one working for the city that has any living memory of what it's like to build a significant network, because that happened in the 70s and 80s, typically with the cable networks. And since then, people do a little bit here and a little bit there, but nobody's really built a massive network. And so, they're used to dealing with tens or hundreds of permits when a network might take tens of thousands of permits depending on the city. The other thing I wanted to make sure people knew is this, that you've partnered with Next Level Networks, who runs your ISP services. And so you're more focused on the physical infrastructure, and they can tend to take care of a lot of the provisioning and things like that, it sounds like.
No, actually.
No, it's not right.
We are more the governance model and the membership model and the crowdsourcing model. No, Next Level, actually, they're great. In fact, I really give Daryl, he's definitely more as much, if not the founder, but the similar co-founder, Daryl Gentry of Next Level Networks. So they're our full installer and network management professional services company. I'm president of the Los Altos Hills. We're the mutual benefit corporation. We hire them to do our installs and network support. So that's where we differentiate. We're a not-for-profit, sort of like an HOA.
You own it and they do the work.
We own it. Yeah. The organization owns the fiber, and then, we could contract with another professional services company if Next Level wasn't here to do our installs. But yeah, they actually do the installs. They do the ordering of the equipment and installation, as well as pulling the fiber and then lighting it up and then doing the home installs and managing the network. So, but you got to have this other umbrella organization that takes care of the governance and sort of the organizational side of it.
Yes. What's the origin story of the network? It sounds like you mentioned as we're getting ready to record, you noticed that I was on Comcast. It seems like maybe if Comcast had quoted you a reasonable fee, that you might not even be in this position now with this amazing 10 gigabits in your home.
Yeah, that was one of the emphasis. So the guy next door has cable Comcast, or it's on a pole on his property. And so I got a quote from Comcast. I said, yeah, I wanted some faster service. I work out of my house here. And, they quoted me $17,000 to come 3 telephone poles. I'm like, you guys got to be kidding. I couldn't cost you that much to string, cable for 3 telephone poles. So that's just crazy. The origins of how this got started, I really can't take credit. We had the town, we have a lot of town volunteer committees, and we had a committee called the Emerging Technology Committee. And one of our major tasks we were doing was to try to bring better broadband, gigabit broadband. We didn't even care which way, whether they were going to, how we could get, we just wanted to be able to offer gigabit broadband somehow, go out and find a vendor to do that. And so we actually did a RFI, request for information, from lots of different vendors to say, what can you do for our town? We sent it to Comcast and AT&T and Verizon and Sonic and everybody, and said, what can you do for us? Can you give us a bid, a quote, or a concept for bringing gigabit something or other? It doesn't even have to be fiber to this town. And they basically all got back to us and said, not really, except for one company, and that was Next Level, saying, hey, I've got a plan. How about we develop this mutual benefit, resident owned and operated fiber co-op, and we can help you launch that. And so they were one of the companies that reached out to us, and then we took and ran with them and said, yeah, let's do it. So, and then the other magical thing that happened, so I started working with Daryl, and then sort of to make this work, you have to be able to find some dark fiber pretty close. Well, it turns out, I live right next to the school. The school had a dark fiber project with a middle mile fiber provider from Zayo and Grand Castle. And so literally like, whoa, he goes, you have dark fiber, so we could actually put this in your shed that's on your property, and we could make this thing. So that was the other thing magically came together, was the fact that, that we met Daryl at Next Level. We had dark fiber in my backyard. I really wanted this to go forward. And those sort of things magically came together, and now it's happening, and it's happening now on a much, much bigger scale.
No, and I feel like a person listening might be like, oh, wow, it sounds like it was kind of easy, but it wasn't. And there's a lot of points I feel like other people might have just given up. One of them being if you're not able to cross public roads and just feeling like, is this even worth pursuing? But you stuck to it. So, what was it? Because we don't have a lot of examples of people doing this. What made you want to see this through as opposed to saying, well, it was a good try, but nah?
This is such a win-win. I've worked on many projects in this town, and there's times when, you have anti-people and you have people that, want to support your project, and you're constantly sort of battling. In this project, everybody wants me to succeed. There's just what I see. There are no anti-fiber people, right? I mean, who wouldn't want more communications, internet options for their home, and more competition? And because we really have one, Comcast is the only provider, and then they really don't provide it. There's a lot of gaps in their coverage and incredibly expensive installs. A lot of times a single install, they quoted $80,000 just to connect to go underneath one street. I knew that we were going to win or, get this done, because there was really nobody saying, nobody really fighting against us. It just took a long time for the town to admit that, yeah, this is good. And we should be able to let these guys move forward. So, so I've worked on other projects that are actually much more frustrating than this. It just takes a long time to kind of get everything rolling. But yeah, and there's so much interest. A lot of these people, they're Google executives, and and they, at the same time, they can't even they have really poor bandwidth. They're literally on satellite or something, and so they pay millions of dollars for their house, and they still have to go down to Starbucks just to download a big file.
Yeah, that's humbling.
It's true.
Yeah, I absolutely believe it. Now, speaking of that, did you have someone that just cut you a check for $1 million to get the project started? I mean, that's another barrier is getting that rolling. So where did the first financing come from?
That's the great thing. So this is entirely resident funded. We do not go out and get a big loan or anything like that. So the first initial project was like, $30,000. And, there were 6 people put in $5,000. That's $30,000 enough to seed the initial hub and equipment. And then, and we're leasing this other line sort of on a monthly basis. So yeah, does not require a lot of big capital upfront. So we probably initially, $40,000 to launch the initial pilot. And then everything we build now is pre-funded. So before we go out and start building any conduits and in the ground, we get people to agree, we get people to actually pay, and in the bank, the funding for the backbone conduit and everything. And then once we get the funding, then we'll actually go ahead and design the project and finish designing it and actually do the install. So we're not taking on debt. So yeah, so basically it doesn't cost a lot.
What technology are you using?
It's what's called a home run.
Mm-hmm.
So home run is basically, we bring in the dark fiber to a hub, and from there, every single home has a single piece of fiber going directly from the hub to their house. And it's so a complete star, a home, every home comes all the way back to the hub that has the super high speed capacity. And if 10 gig isn't enough, we need to light up another 10 gig channel. We can light up another 10 gig channel or 100 gig channel. So everybody has, it's not like too many people on a node where you have, so it's just a single point. We can support about 300 people from a single cabinet. And so we'll have a couple cabinets around town. But we can run really dark fiber circuits, between the cabinets. So, but everybody has a direct link directly back to the hub. So.
Right, because I was trying to imagine. I mean, if you had engineered this in a way, a lot of the cities that build their large scale networks, it's a passive optical approach with the fiber, and getting into that, I mean, you have to buy a rack, you have to have a number of things, and the approach you took is one that scales much more nicely at those small ends, I think. So I just this is a little bit over my head, as you can tell, but it's a detail I thought might be worth noting. Right.
So when you're speaking of speed and design, so I have this idea that so we are lighting our network up for all of our customers at 10 gigabit.
And most of them probably have a home router that can do 500 megabits or a gig.
Well, so that's the thing. I mean, so a lot of the consumer grade equipment, most our standard install is actually one gigabit. And so our equipment is actually designed for one. And almost everybody's home network is not designed for more than one. But we are still lighting the network at 10. So if people have their own SPF fiber converters, they can actually get 10 gigabit service. And you can imagine how many people in America can get for $150 a month, and that will hopefully come down to $100 a month, 10 gigabit service. That's a very commercial type speed. And there's entire communities that they have 10 gigs for their entire community, and now you're getting it to your one house. And so I'm hoping that, maybe in a year, we might be the fastest broadband community in America. There's some other community in Florida that I'm competing with, but
probably a hotwire town.
We're lighting up our residents at 10 gig. I think is a unique thing that will put us on the map, and there's no reason why not. I mean, we can download that speed here, and we can continue to upgrade our speeds as needed when more people connect to get good speeds out there. So.
Yeah, I mean, I know of entire towns that have 10 gig, but the price point is usually much higher, usually about 300 or 200, and very few people take it. So absolutely, you are at the bleeding edge, and that's a remarkable price. Now, I wanted to ask, I've seen something about volunteers, and I feel like I saw you did a survey, and a lot of people said that they'd be interested in volunteering to help spread the word and things like that. How much of this have you had help on? How much can people, if they want to do something like this in their area, and there's not a lot of places that have that level of technical sophistication, we'll admit, but nonetheless, how much can you count on other people that are busy folks? How much did other people pitch in?
So first of all, we have a growing network of what we call neighborhood champions, and these are people that really they're just going out and they like the concept. They don't even have to be technical, but they know they want fiber in their home. So they ring doorbells next door and they get groups of projects together. So they go out, maybe find another 20 people in their neighborhood, and they go, okay, do you guys want to get fiber? Let's get a project going. And they start collecting names, and so they come back to and say, okay, look, we passed 20 homes. 10 of those people are interested. And can we go to the next level? Can you give us a project quote? We give them back with a quote to say, okay, for your 20 homes, it's, maybe $100,000. So that's $5,000 per home. So, those people are going to have to, so we go back and then we tell us it's 5,000. And then if those people all agree, they all write checks for 5,000. And then we go, so we actually have a group of about 45 neighborhood champions. And so these people are more going out and spreading the word about it. Rather, they don't really have to do the actual technical installation and the home installs, and certainly managing the network. So the volunteers are primarily doing the outreach rather than the technical side of it. But they really do help. I mean, I could never do that. We don't have any people. We don't like Comcast where we send letters to everybody. It's much more of a neighborhood ringing on doorbells, and sometimes we have picnics and potlucks where we get together and talk about it and try to get neighbors involved. And we have a lot of Zoom calls and we get on different meetings to try to encourage people to join into a project. And so it's very much a door-to-door neighborhood kind of, and then we build where people want us to build. If there's a section of town and they don't want us to come, we're only going to build where people have sort of paid ahead of time for us to install the fiber there.
And this is not a town where you have a significant amount of low-income folks who will just be left behind for lack of ability to pay, I'm assuming.
Yeah, no, I was saying this, the cost, so the basic install cost, the one-time install cost, as a total ballpark, we say between $5,000 to $10,000. And then there's the $150 or, maybe it'll come down to $100 a month. So those are the two numbers. This is not, if you're looking to shave a couple bucks off your Comcast bill, this is not necessarily, really should be looked at as a home improvement project, a $5,000, $10,000 home improvement project that's going to last for the next 20 years and provide you with great resale value for your home. And it's going to provide a service that, you and your kids can now be running Fortnite, at way better latency than you could before. So, the kids are going to like it. Everybody that's Zooming at home is going to love it. It's, and everybody's streaming. It's just the future, and it's a good investment for your home.
For these champions, did they evolve a script? I mean, I can tell already that you can, you have a way of talking about it. Is that something that evolved as different people talk to their neighbors and things like that? Or how did that come about?
Well, that's the whole design. It's a crowdsourcing model. So, a neighborhood wants it. They have to get together and decide who wants it. And then we give them a price. And then it's sort of like doing a big group project. It's like putting in a sewer project or a new water line for a group of homes. And everybody gets together and decides, yeah, I want it. I'm willing to pay for it. And here's how much it's going to cost. And then you get some people may drop out, and then maybe the cost goes up because you got fewer people over the distance.
Well, that I get. But so I guess what I'm asking is you obviously a kind of person who's comfortable, talking, you're someone outgoing. It seems like, let's say that, for instance, I'm a person who is very good at engineering, but I'm not super social, and I would like to go to my neighbors, but I'm intimidated by it. I'm not even sure how I would start the conversation. Do you coach up people like me in that situation?
Yeah, we've got a whole bunch of materials that you can, either write into an email or send in postcards. We've got some marketing materials, I don't know how to call them marketing, but yeah, outreach materials. You can copy and paste and add your name and say, hi, I'm your neighbor. This is a project we're doing. Would you like to learn about it more, learn about the project? So yeah, it does take somebody more social, sometimes more outgoing to be a good neighborhood champion. But a lot of times the word just kind of gets out more organically too. It's sort of like when you cut a tree and the tree guy comes, the guy goes, hey, yeah, I think I need my tree trimmed too. And so, you just start talking. And of course, it's house to house, neighbor to neighbor, starting to talk to each other. And actually, we have some road signs that we put out on the road saying a fiber project's happening here. And so that gets conversations started among neighbors. And then we have a big database of all the champions, and we're building as people want to get connected. We get all their contact information, and we share that with the champions. And then, so it's sort of organically growing, but it's growing very quickly because people realize this is going to be a great benefit for them. I mean, there's nothing really better than fiber. And there's no other communication medium that's going to, in my mind, that's going to do better than fiber in any sort of foreseeable future. I don't think there's any sort of wireless solution or some other medium that's going to deliver data any faster, any more cheaply than fiber.
I did see in one of the articles, which sometimes even in the tech press, they get a detail wrong or two, that earlier in the project you were looking at, or perhaps Next Level Networks was looking at some wireless solutions here or there, but those have all been set aside then and just focus on the fiber?
No, actually, it's okay. Our original plan was to actually build everything out from the hub and just start building outward. Mm-hmm. But we realized that some of the most unserved areas of town are like miles away from the hub where I am.
Yeah, they're never conveniently located. That's a rule.
So we came up with this concept of what I call a fiber island. So a fiber island is, so there's maybe, 20, 30 homes, and they're a mile and a half away, 2 miles away up the hill. But they really need service. They have no service. They're on satellite and everything. So we have a point-to-point, very high-speed 10 gigabit radio. But locally, within their 20 homes, they're all connected, and they've invested in a local high-speed fiber optic network. And then we just provide, initially, we plan, for the next 2 years or however long it takes to get the fiber to them, we provide a very fast, high-speed 10 gigabit backhaul with a point-to-point And then, when the fiber gets there, they just simply remove our radio backhaul, and we connect in the true fiber backhaul. But meanwhile, that local neighborhood is already up and running now with 10 gigabits. So they've invested in that, in the ground infrastructure that they can use moving forward.
That's great. The last question I had is also, like, you've gotten some good tech press. I assume you've had a lot of other people coming. Have you heard, is anyone actually hitting the same levels of success that you have, or is there still people just starting out? What have you seen?
So I know Next Level is actually working on several other projects in Woodside and Los Gatos. So yeah, there's no reason that other communities should not do what we're doing. Assuming, if you need, you probably need, one of the main requirements is finding good dark fiber backhaul. Though we have a project, there's other projects I know the Next Level is working on where their backhaul option was lighted fiber, but still that's better. And then they can still build their own localized fiber network. And then at some point they might be able to find dark fiber. But either way, it's like I said, we built this, this pilot project for $30,000. This is, you don't have to be an AT&T or a Comcast to start some of these local broadband initiatives to really bring up your speed. I think there needs to be a reasonable size of scale. I think maybe, 10 homes might be a little small, but maybe 50 homes might. In fact, there's another co-op that I know that that we were going to help, and they decided to form their own co-op. They have about 50 homes, and they're up in Woodside. And so they decided to do their own mutual benefit corporation and launch. So, 50 homes. I mean, there's no reason that a small 50 home community, or even if that's a small group of residents, can't start one of these projects as well.
Great. It's very inspiring. So I really appreciate your time sharing that with us today.
Great. Yeah. Great talking to you.
We have transcripts for this and other podcasts available at muninetworks.org/broadbandbits. Email us at podcast@muninetworks.org with your ideas for the show. Follow Chris on Twitter. His handle is @CommunityNets. Follow muninetworks.org stories on Twitter. The handle's @muninetworks. Subscribe to this and other podcasts from ILSR, including Building Local Power, Local Energy Rules, and the Composting for Community podcast. You can access them anywhere you get your podcasts. You can catch the latest important research from all of our initiatives if you subscribe to our monthly newsletter at ilsr.org. While you're there, please take a moment to donate. Your support in any amount keeps us going. Thank you to Arnie Hughesby for the song Warm Duck Shuffle, licensed through Creative Commons. This was the Community Broadband Bits podcast. Thanks for listening.